So, let's start. We are on page 89, chapter 21. I'm going to say my speech, this speech, or probably 2 more times. It needs to be said because otherwise, because of the trees, you lose the forest. The reason why we're learning this, from page 17, from chapter 17 to chapter 25, is all one concept. You can say it, you can give this concept probably in one class. But we're going to divide it into many classes, because of the trees, like I said, you might lose the forest. So I'm just going to tell you where the forest is right now, before we even start.
And the page one more time, please.
Page 89, chapter Chaf Aleph. In the English, it's page 88, chapter 21. Some of the books might be different, it's 87 or 86, but it's around those areas. So this is what we know so far. Shalom Aleichem. What do we know? That God, in order for us to do a mitzvah, to become a Beinani, it's not going to go very well if we don't have our intellect and emotion together with the mitzvah. Just do the right thing, you can say to Nike, but it doesn't work in real life. We all tried, we all know, do the right thing, and unfortunately we don't do the right thing. Right? So he already gave us a tool to work, how to do the right thing. It says, you have to contemplate, learn Kabbalah, learn Hasidus, learn the inner side of the Torah to such an extent that you're going to give birth to love and awe of God, and then you get excited by tefillin the same way you get excited by ice cream. One day you'll be able to achieve it. And then it says most people are not going to be able to achieve it. And when we're talking about most people, we're talking about most people who are learning 10 hours a day. Yeah? Even if you learn 10 hours a day, you're still going to get more excited by the ice cream than the tefillin. So it says, just the fact that intellectually you want to get excited by tefillin more than ice cream, I'm going to consider it as if you do get excited. Right? Then the Alter Rebbe came and told us, introduce us to something else. He told us, you should know that every Jew has a hidden love of God, hidden inside of him, that he inherited from the forefathers. And under oppression, at certain times throughout the person's life, that hidden love of God will come out. A person is not going to be able to go against God. He's going to tell you, I am not going to do nothing against God, I'm willing to die. On certain occasions. Right? And now we're learning, last time we learned about the unity of God. Why are we learning about the unity of God? Because we want to, in everyday life, we can't see the fact that I'm going to, waste a couple of times, say a joke over here, say a joke over there. That doesn't mean I'm going against God, right? It's not really, maybe I'm not for him, but I'm not exactly against him. So all of these chapters comes to tell you about the unity of God. What does it mean, the unity of God? Put yourself in a mind frame that if you're not working for God, you're working against God. This is another tool to use. We're going to see if it's applicable, if we're going to use it. In certain times, we will have to use it. Does it work in everyday life? Not necessarily. We're going to discuss it later on. But it's another tool in our disposal to think about God in such a manner that it's all or everything, all or nothing. It's either the next act you're going to do is for God, and if it's not for God, the next act is, you know what it is? It's against God. So in order to do that, we started learning last time about the unity of God. So it says, what does it mean, unity of God? So let's just explain it a little bit from last time. A lot of people think that God is the greatest power there is. There's no greater power than God. That's a wrong way to think. It's not that there's no greater powers than God. The right way to think is that there's nothing else but God. What do you think? There are powers? There are some powers, but God is greater than them? No. God is everything. Yeah. It's not that God is, the big boss up there, but there are other bosses. No, it doesn't work like this. God is everything. So we learned that whichever level you're going, last time we learned, whichever level you're going to think about, it's like one speech compared to the power of speech. A person said one word compared to your ability to speak. And then it says this one word is completely nullified in the ability to speech. And then this one word is completely nullified in your ability of intellect. Imagine that speech came because you had an idea and you wanted to convey an idea. So that's completely nullified within that. And before you have intellect, just the possibility of intellect, that one speech is completely nullified. You can't even find it within God himself. And he says, so the entire world, all the worlds are negligible compared to godliness. But the way that we learned it last time, they're negligible compared to godness, but they exist. That's the way we learned it the last time. See, when I say a word, my word exists. Right now, you can even go to YouTube, and after I become 120 years old, somebody can go to YouTube and they can see my speaks, can see my words, can listen to the class. Yeah, so it exists. There's an existence of my word without me. That's the wrong way to think about godliness. And this is what chapter 21 is going to come and teach us. So let's start and see. Perek Chaf chapter 21. Vehine, and behold, again, the only reason why we're learning this, keep the forest alive. I know it's hard. The only way why we're learning it is going to give us an ability to think about every action as either it's for God or it's against God. Because if that's the way we're going to think, we're going to pass the test. It's like the guy who's standing with the gun over our head and tell us, go against God. So we're not going to do that. But, just saying a joke doesn't look like it's against God. Over here, that way of thinking says it is against God. If it's not God's will, it's against God's will. Okay? Vehine, and behold, midat HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the attribute of God, shelo kemidat basar v'dam. It doesn't work as the attribute of flesh and blood. Why not? שהאדם כשמדבר דיבור, because when a person speaks a word, הרי הבל הדיבור שבפיו, then the word in his mouth, הוא מורגש, it is felt, it can be grabbed, ונראה דבר בפני עצמו, and it doesn't need my existence. My speech doesn't need me. What does it mean it doesn't need me? Like I said before, after 120 years, my speech still exists. You can grab it. It doesn't need me. I can write a book with my thoughts. I can write speeches. I can say speeches. You can record them on tape recorder. You don't need me. It's like a carpenter. Once you have a table, the table doesn't need the carpenter anymore. It's there, it exists. The speech doesn't need me. With God, we're going to see, doesn't work the same way. It looks like it has its own existence. Muvdal משורשו, it is separated from me. It is, my speech is not my thinking. It's not my intellect. It's not my emotions. Even though I can speak, my emotion is in my speech. Yeah? But it's not my emotions. שהוא מובדל משורשו. My speech is separated from its root. שהן 10 בחינות הנפש עצמה, the 10 attributes of the soul itself. אבל הקדוש ברוך הוא, but when it comes to God, the speech is Him. Think about this, what I'm saying. The speech is Him. הקדוש ברוך הוא, אין דיבורו מובדל ממנו יתברך חס ושלום. The speech, you know, we had a question last time. There was God before the world was created. And then there's God after the world was created. Right? After the world is created, then there's God and there is a world. That's the way we govern. That's the way we deal with physics. There's us and my words, two different things. No. The world itself is God. It's not like two different things. The world lives inside of God. It's within God. It's godliness itself. It's godliness that's screaming, God doesn't exist. We exist. That's what's so strange about it. It's a type of godliness that is screaming, God, you don't exist. Because how did God create the world, as we learned last time? Through speech. But he had a problem. Where would he create the world in? He's everywhere. So God needed to make a place where he doesn't exist. So what did God do? God used a certain kind of energy that he has. God can do everything. He pushed himself away. He created empty space. And in that empty space, he created the world. But here's the trick. The pushing of God, the pushing of God itself is a godly power. So the pushing of God is also God, unlike us. אין דיבורו מובדל ממנו יתברך. So the world, when God is speaking the world into being, that speech is still within God. כי אין דבר חוץ ממנו, because there's nothing outside of him. Like we learned, ולית אתר פנוי מיניה. There's no place that God cannot be found. By the way, we're going not to discuss it a lot over here, but we might discuss it some in the next chapter, in the chapter after. The question comes, if everything is God, philosophically, it becomes difficult. Rape is God. Murder is God. All the things that are against God are God. Not only that they are God, God is sustaining them. God is making them. The question is, if God doesn't want them, why does he give them life? God gave the Germans, Imach Shimam, the power to kill 1 million Jewish children who didn't do anything wrong. And as they're killing the Jewish child, God is making those German people alive, if you can call them people. What is that all about? You call that, why would God want to do such a thing? It's a philosophical question which we'll have to deal with later on, we're going to see. But that doesn't matter to the logic. The logic is God is everything. ולכן, and therefore, אין דיבורו יתברך כדיבורנו חס ושלום. So the world that God made is not like the words that we make, that our words are not us. By the way, by us, it's not only the words are not us. You know this famous saying, I think, therefore I am? That's not correct either. Why am I saying I think is not correct? I think therefore I am is not correct. Because when you understood, let's say, a deep concept in mathematics, for example, a person understood a deep concept in mathematics. Does that concept needs the person in order to exist? No. That concept existed before you understood it, and it's going to exist after all human beings are going to be not here anymore. The concept is true no matter what. 2 + 2 = 4, whether there's people to think about it, or there's no people to think about it. It's an existence. It doesn't need you. But you see, when God thinks or God speaks, the thought is the physics of God. 2 + 2, the only reason it equals to 4 is because God exists. If God doesn't exist, then 2 + 2 doesn't equal to 4. It all depends on God. The reason why 2 + 2 = 4 is because God is putting the physics, that kind of logic, into this world right now. This is God's logic. And if God, by the way, God can change it. God can do 2 + 2 = 5, and then we'll all understand that 2 + 2 = 5. That will make sense to us. Because that will be the physics of the world. That's the way we'll understand it. So, this is his thought. His speech, the same thing. It doesn't have an existence without him. It's all part of him. Just like, this is what he puts in breakfasts. כמו שאין מחשבתו כמחשבתנו, just like his thoughts is not like our thoughts. What do you mean again, his thought is not our thoughts? Our thoughts is not us. Our thoughts is not us. When you understand the concept, there's a concept. The concept exists without you. There's you understanding a concept, two different things. In order to understand that, if you don't exist, the concept still exists. And after you exist, the concept is still there, whether you understand it or not. It's got nothing to do with you. It's two different things. But by God, the ideas don't exist unless he's there. He makes the entire universe, the entire spiritual universe, physical rules of logic, the whole thing, everything comes from God. And this is what it's written, כי לא מחשבותיי מחשבותיכם. My thoughts are not like your thoughts. וכתיב, and it's written also, כן גבהו דרכי מדרככם. My ways are not your ways, God says to us. In other words, God's physics is not our physics. We don't deal with the same physics. A photon who's traveling in the speed of light, can you ask him, how long did it take you to get here? You can't. Yeah, because for him, it didn't take time. Anything that travels in the speed of light, no time occurs. The question that you ask him doesn't make sense to him. He lives everywhere at the same time. He started at the sun and reached here. Yes, both of them are at the same time. For us, as an observer from the outside, it looks as if the photon traveled. If you want, this is modern day physics. You don't have to go to Kabbalah for that. But Kabbalah introduced this 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago. ולא נקרא דיבורו יתברך. So the question is, so how come in Kabbalah it's called speech? Hashem created the world with speech. It's not the same way as speech is us. So I tell you why it's called speech. The only reason why it's called speech, בשם דיבור, רק על דרך משל, it is similar to speech in one way, not in all ways. It's not the same way as our speech. How? כמו שדיבור התחתון שבאדם, just like our speech, מגלה לשומעים מה שהיה צפון ונעלם במחשבתו. Reveals to those who hear us what was hidden in a person's thought. Let's explain this a little bit. If I think about something, the only way to reveal my thoughts to you is to speak them. Now, but in order to speak them, look what I'm doing. I'm thinking an idea, and I make this idea into sounds. Means meaningless sounds. There's nothing behind them. Think about it. There's nothing. It's meaningless sound. I make them into letters, and I speak them, and that letters are going to reveal an idea. The idea that... So this is the same thing with God. God had words within him, whatever the word is, and he spoke them out. He revealed them to whom? He doesn't need to reveal them to himself. In himself, he is there. He needs to reveal it to the world. What does it mean? I'm not so sure yet, but we're going to discuss it soon. כך למעלה, so this is above, באור אין סוף ברוך הוא, in the infinite light of God, יציאת האור והחיות ממנו יתברך, when the light comes out from godliness, מהאעלם אל הגילוי, from hidden to revealed, לברוא עולמות ולהחיותם, to create the worlds and to sustain them, to give them life. Let's explain this a little bit, what's going on over here. See, when God wanted to create, his creation was one idea. It is one idea. He broke this one idea into words. The words seems like they completely have got... If I ask you, what does the words have to do with an idea? It says nothing. It's completely nullified to the idea. It is impossible that Abu Gadu is going to refers to a deep concept of godliness. But that's what God did. He spoke. He created physical things where you look at them one by one. You cannot find intellect in them. They're completely devoid of intellect. There's no intellect in them whatsoever. And through them, he created the world. That world, we are those letters. Those letters that God is speaking, we are those letters. And that's what we have a feeling that we exist. Just like the letter feels, I have an existence. I'm an I'm a ba. And God looks at him and says, you, in my intellect though, you don't exist even. Because before God wanted to speak the idea, so-called speak the idea, before those letters were not there. Because when the idea, world, whatever it is, there's no letters in it. The letters comes later on. And those letter things, that they exist. This is us. The world. Nikra b'shem dibur. This is what's called speech. It looks as if we're out of God. See, for the letter thinks we are made out of a physics which is outside of God. Are we really outside of him? No. By the way, this is what we say every day. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. All of it is one. Whatever you see, Elokeinu, Elokim, all these powers in the world that you see, all these worlds that you see, all those levels that you see, it's all one. What does it mean it's all one? Everything is God. It looks like it has its own existence. Vehen, and these are the Asara Ma'amarot. These are the 10 attributes, the 10 speeches. 10 utterances, שבהן נברא העולם, that God created the world with. They're a type of energy that God created in the world that looks like it's completely outside of God. In reality, it is inside of God. וכן שאר כל התורה, נביאים וכתובים, also all the levels of godliness you can find, שהשיגו הנביאים במראה נבואתם, that the prophets have seen through the prophecy. So by us, it's things that are outside of us. But his speech is completely inside of him. In other words, see, when we're thinking about Hashem before he created the world and Hashem after he created the world, we're thinking about concept of space and time. Remember, when there's an object that moves at the speed of light, even according to physics, there is no time. Hashem is infinite. So what do you mean there is no time for Hashem? Right now, Hashem is Hashem within himself and Hashem talking. Right now, those two. Right now, Hashem is before he created the world, and right now is Hashem after the world was created. Right now, at this moment, it's levels within godliness. Don't think about the ideas of space and time. We are confined into ideas of space and time because we are the letters. It seems to us as if there's space and time, but truly there isn't space and time. והרי דיבורו ומחשבתו כביכול, and this is why, for him, his speech, his thought, מיוחדות עמו, they're completely one with him, בתכלית הייחוד, completely with complete unity, כמו דיבורו ומחשבתו של אדם. How inside of God is the speech of God? When I have an idea that I need to convey to a child, whatever that idea is, the idea, does it have letters in my brain? I want to convey the concept that cause always comes before effect. It's an important idea to give to a child. I want to convey the idea for him. It's an idea. In my brain, does it have letters? It doesn't have letters. It's an idea. But actually, there's letters there. How do I know? Because once I start talking to him, the letters appear. Because in order to explain the idea to the child, I'll tell the child, for example, did you ever find a child who's older than his father? The child is going to tell me, no, it cannot be. A child can never be older than his father. Right? A child has to be younger than his father. In order to convey the idea, cause and effect, I had to use letters to convey those ideas. Yeah? So it says, in God right now, there are letters, but those letters, the source of them in the idea exist at the same time. So God is before speech and after speech right now at this moment. At this moment, he's holding on those two levels. It's not like by us that there's space and time. Right now. So when we're talking about before and after when it comes to God, we're not talking about before and after like us. We're talking about two levels within God that exists right now. כמו דיבורו ומחשבתו של אדם, just like the speech and thought of a person, בעודן בכוח חוכמתו, when they're still in his intellect, ושכלו, and his brain, או בתשוקה וחמדה שבליבו, or with a desire that a person has in his heart, קודם שעלתה מהלב למוח להרהר בה, בבחינת אותיות. Oh, I want something. I'm not even sure what I want. I feel a desire. Oh, cheesecake. First of all, the word cheesecake was already in the feeling of a desire before I even knew what I wanted. The desire for something, the words cheesecake was there. You understand? This is the same thing, the same idea with God. God exists in all those facets at the same time. It's not like one after the other. It's a cause and effect, but there's no time, yes? Before the speech, it's already, he's right now speaking and not speaking. He's right now speaking, and he has the desire, and he has the intellect, and all those letters are inside the intellect, inside the thing. By God, it's all one. It's not like by us. שאז היו אותיות המחשבה והדיבור הזה נמשכות מחמדה ותשוקה זה בכוח הלב ומיוחדות שם בתכלית. In the desire, my cheesecake was there. The letters cheesecake was there. In the desire. In the desire itself, I had cheesecake. You couldn't see it. You can only see it after I said, hey, I want cheesecake. But it was there. הייחוד בשורשן שהם החוכמה ושכל שבמוח וחמדה ותשוקה שבלב. אוקיי. וככה ממש דרך משל, and the same way exactly, this is מיוחדות, it is as one, דיבורו ומחשבתו של הקדוש ברוך הוא, God's speech and God's thoughts are completely united, בתכלית הייחוד, with complete unity, במהותו ועצמותו יתברך. In God's essence. גם אחר שיצא דיבורו יתברך אל הפועל, בבריאות העולמות, even after God created the worlds. God right now exists in a state before creation and in a state after creation at the same time. כמו שהיה מיוחד עמו קודם בריאת העולמות. Like it was one with him before the world was created. So now you can see the concept of why God doesn't change by creating the world. There's no change in God. It's still God. By us, it's going to cause a change. By God, there's no change. He's all those things at the same time. God is everything. ואין שום שינוי כלל לפניו יתברך. By him, there's no distinction whatsoever. So where's the distinction? The distinction is on this energy of created beings. And even there's no distinction. It appears to them as if there's a distinction. Because they don't travel in the space. Go back to our physics. They don't travel the speed of light. So for us, time occurs. The photon left the sun 17 minutes ago. And it's going to come over here 17 minutes from now. Whatever, how many minutes it takes. For the photon itself, there was no time. It left and it reached everywhere at the same time. By the way, this is modern physics. You don't have to go to Kabbalah for that. אלא ברואים המקבלים חיותם מבחינת דיבורו יתברך. So for us it looks like there's a difference. There's a change. Something changed. בבחינת יציאתו כבר אל הפועל. In other words, think about the photon. The photon that is right here, right now. From the sun, let's say it's daylight right now. And I caught this photon. And I tell him, when did you leave the sun? He's going to laugh at you. Say, I am the sun. I'm in the sun right now. But I'll tell you, but this is not the sun, this is here. I'm also here right now. And both statements for the photon is true. And I ask him, when did you leave the sun? He's going to tell you, what do you mean when did I leave the sun? The sun is here. I'm in the sun. This is the way God creates the world. בבריאת העולמות שמתלבש בהם להחיותם, this is how God creates the world when he dresses them, על ידי השתלשלות, through going down, מעילה לעלול, from cause to effect, וירידת המדרגות, from going from one level to another one, בצמצומים רבים, with many contractions, God contracts himself, ושונים. In our example, if you want to use the example from physics, because for some people it makes it easier. When the photon is a particle, not when the photon is a wave. There's two aspects to the photon. The duality. Sometimes he is a wave, he screams, I'm a wave. Sometimes he's a particle. He says, no, I'm a particle, I'm existent. I do exist, I'm not a wave. Right? So when you ask the wave part of the photon, what are you? He's going to scream, what do you mean, what am I? I'm the sun. The sun reached here. If you ask the particle part of the wave, you know what he's going to tell you? I exist. I'm here. And the proof is, I can bang into something and move it. Take a spindle, whatever they're called, you know, like these windmills, and it says, look, I'm hitting it and I'm moving it. Wave cannot move things. Only particles can. And it says, look, I'm in existence. I am here. This part of the photon is screaming, I exist. But does it really exist? No, it's still a wave. You can't capture it. It has the duality of both. עד שיוכלו הברואים. So, in other words, a wave turned into a particle. That's what happened over here. But it's still a wave. Don't think it has real existence. That's what God says. Don't think I have real existence. I know I appear as if I have existence. I don't really exist. You don't really exist. There's no really particles in this world. It seems as if there are. The world actually doesn't exist. I'm everything. עד שיוכלו הברואים לקבל חיותם והתהוותם ממנו, until all the creatures can actually receive their sustenance from God. Because if they don't receive the sustenance from God, they're going to become nullified. They're going to become nothing. Like before, God creates them. That actually doesn't make sense, what I just said now. There's no before. But whatever. Think about it. I don't know how. ולא יתבטלו במציאות. And they're not going to be completely gone. In other words, if God doesn't talk them now, they're gone. The entire energies of logic, physics, the entire worlds, spiritual worlds, physical worlds, whatever you want, only exists right now because right now there's a wave, utterances, there's a wave of God that is creating them. God is constantly doing ba, and combination of them make different materials. That's how the world exists. If for 1 second God stops saying ba, those things disappear. They're not here anymore. But even without saying, they're still part of the idea within God. They're still there. You can't see them, but they're there. Yes?
So it's kind of like it's all an illusion.
I'm afraid, I was afraid this question is going to come up. And I tell you why.
It's not an illusion, but that's the duality.
You are right. Very good. Very good. Excellent. When God said, I created the world, the fact that he says it means that it exists. And then God screams, but it doesn't exist. So that's a duality, you're right. We're going to answer your questions much later in Tanya, but it's a very good question. I was afraid for him right now. I don't want to go into that section because even this is hard enough. Yeah.
Hey, Rabbi, when I first heard the concept that God spoke the world into existence, I'm not a physics guy, I'm not a science guy. I'm a social sciences kind of a guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought the lesson that we learned from that is that I have to be careful what I say. Because what I say will create my reality and my future. Based on the words that I use. It's powerful. So I have to be careful. Of course, I haven't mastered it yet, but I have to be careful about what I say.
Mm-hmm.
Because it matters, it can become real what I say.
That's why I said, if I may, in the beginning of the class, philosophically it's going to be problematic, which we'll have to address later on, which means God right now is creating rape and murder Not only is he creating it, it's worse. He's sustaining it. He's giving it life right now. And we'll have to deal with it in the next chapter. Yeah?
Well, am I on the right track though?
Yes, absolutely. It's a very good question, which we're going to have to discuss in the next chapter. A little bit. Actually, the next chapter, this is the hardest chapter. The next chapter is also philosophical, but it's fun and easier to grasp. Anyway, so this is, after we go through this, we're over the hill. וכל הצמצומים הם, so all this contraction that God contracts himself in order to come to words, in order to come to letters, in order to put his energy into things that look like they have got nothing to do with the idea, הם בחינת הסתר פנים. What does God do? God hides himself. Like the famous example we give all the time, you can't tell a child the ideas in your head because they're not going to understand it. So you have to hide the idea in an allegory, in a story. You can't talk to a child cause and effect. He doesn't understand cause and effect, but he understands father and child. So when I tell him, I know of a child who's older than his father, he's going to laugh. And he says, no, you don't know such a thing. You know, I have to give him the concept in an allegory. This is the way God takes his essence and puts it and makes it into a physical allegory. להסתיר, he hides himself, ולהעלים האור והחיות הנמשך מדיבורו יתברך. He hides the ideas that is found in the speech, שלא יתגלה בבחינת גילוי רב. That it's not going to be revealed completely. Because if it's going to give too much, we're not going to understand. Too much light. שלא יוכלו התחתונים לקבל. Because otherwise, lower forms like us would not be able to sustain that light. ולכן, and this is why, גם כן, נדמה להם אור וחיות הדיבור של מקום ברוך השם מלובש בהם. It seems to them that the light of God that's in the letters, כאילו הוא דבר מובדל ממהותו. It is like it's not his essence. So we look at the world and we think the world has an existence on its own. That's the way you're going to feel. There's no way to escape it. You're going to feel the world exists. It doesn't need godliness. It doesn't need God to sustain it. In other words, who is more real? The table or God? Table is much more real than God.
To us.
Oh, very good. But look how, very good. It's 100, to us, to me, the table exists. God will discuss if he exists or not. But the table?
This could be an illusion.
Exactly. That everything is godliness. That's the point. But to us, it appears that the table is here. God will discuss if he exists. רק שנמשך ממנו יתברך כמו דיבור של אדם מנפשו. This is the way we look at the world. The letters looking at themselves, they're screaming, we exist. We have an entity. We are something. We're an we're a ba, we're a wave. We're an electron. We can push on something. And God is looking, he said, you're a wave. The sun is here. It stretched all the way to come to here. That's the reality. אך לגבי הקדוש ברוך הוא, but by God, אין שום צמצום והסתר. God looks at it without any boundaries, without any... See, when you said to the child the idea of cause and effect, and you use the allegory of father and child, you don't see father. When you say the word father and child, you don't see fa, a, t, h, e, r. You see the idea, cause and effect. When you say the words father and child, what do you see in your mind? Cause and effect. This is the way God. God doesn't see the words. In reality, these words don't exist. And there's a difference. I say words, it's out of me. God says words, it's within him. Everything is godliness, like we said in the beginning of the chapter. שאין שום צמצום והסתר ואלם מסתיר ומעלים לפניו. Nothing actually hides in front of God. וכחשיכה כאורה. So the darkness that he hid himself to us is like light to him. In the allegory, he sees the light. We see the darkness. כדכתיב, and this is what it's written, גם חושך לא יחשיך ממך. It says, darkness is not going to darken from you. משום, why? שאין הצמצומים והלבושים, because all the contractions that God pushes himself, as if he's pushing himself away, דבר נפרד ממנו, they're not different than him. אלא, כהדין, it is like, is going to give now an analogy to think about it. And it's a very strong analogy. Just before we start the analogy, the word kamtza. Yeah, the word kamtza in Aramaic has two meanings. Both meanings you can use. It means a snail. Kamtza means a snail. Or it means a tortoise, a turtle. Yeah? So he's going to give the analogy from a snail and a turtle. You can use both of them because it works. In both those animals it works, as you can see soon. Ke'adin kamtza, just like the snail or the turtle, the levushe, that the garments of the turtle or the garments of the snail, mineu be, it's him. In other words, when a child, you say to a child, hey, there's an animal. So the child looks at an animal and he says, I don't see an animal. You show him, here, there's an animal over there. He says, I see a turtle. The guy says, I see a rock. There's no animal there. That's what the child will say, right? The shell of the turtle it's hiding the turtle, but it is also the turtle. The same thing with the snail. The shell of the snail is hiding the snail, but it is the snail. That's the way God created the world. It looks like there's something hiding the world, but the energy that's hiding godliness from the world in itself is the shell. It's godliness. It's the same thing. It's the same creature. The thing that's hiding the flesh, the meat, and the hiding is the same meat. It's the same turtle and the shell. כהדין קמצא דלבושי מינהו בה, כמו שכתוב, like it says, כי הוויה הוא האלוקים. This is why we say Rosh Hashanah. Yud K Vav K is God. You look at the word of Elokim, all the powers of God, and you think that's God within creation. But God to himself is above creation. They tell you didn't get the point. It's not like there's God within creation and God above creation. The God in creation is the shell of the God it's the same God. It's not like two different things. It's the same creature. It's one creature. וכמו שכתוב במקום אחר. And like it's written in another place. ולכן קמה כולו כלא חשיב ממש. And therefore everything in front of us is completely negligible. In other words, this entire world is godliness. And next week we're going to deal with the question that Mr. Zimet introduced to us. What was the question? If the entire world is godliness, what's going on? Why is godliness all the evil things in the world? Why is God evil? What's going on over there? How did God get to evil? I understand, not good. But God is evil? The evil in the world is also God, you want to tell me? That's we're going to explain in Perek Chaf Bet. And then we pretty much finished the hard part. The hard part is there's also free choice, right?
He already asked before. Is free choice an illusion?
Very good question. So the answer is after God created the world and created free choice and told us to free choice, it's not an illusion. You're asking pretty much his question, which I didn't want to get into right now. You're asking, we'll deal with this question later on.
But the last things that you said, it's all been very difficult.
I know.
But I'll just go to the ending. Now, I always thought before this that, like maybe you were saying, God created evil so that man would have free choice, and that
No, he created us. He gave us free will. That's the thing. He gave us free will. So
he gave
it's
us.
our decision. And if you follow the Ten Commandments, you'll be a good person. But nobody follows them.
No,
So
let me
that's
go. There's no free will if everything is good.
There is a free will. Well, there's without evil.
If everything is good, where's the free choice?
There's no evil.
Huh?
You can't have good without the evil, right?
Well, you can't have free will without. I thought God was.
So
Angels have no choice.
we have a problem in our thinking right now, and I understand. According to right now, the way we're thinking, the way we understand stuff, God is evil.
Or evil is part of God.
Or evil is part of God, which is a tough thing to swallow, and which we'll have to, yeah, exactly. And that's what we'll have to deal with on the next chapter a little bit, that we're going to see, not exactly, but that we need a whole chapter for it. And it's an easy concept. It's not as hard as this concept.
If God would have not given us free choice, there wouldn't be evil.
We discuss it again. We're just discussing in the air right now without knowing the direction to think. Let's wait for this. Very good. You can. We have a recording of God.
What's the question?
Well, very good. He asked, can we record God?
Record?
Yes, like he recorded me on YouTube. So I told him, we have a recording of God.
It's in the Torah.
And then he said where it is. It's right over there. There's a recording of God. By the way, it's not only the recording of his speech. It's a recording of his essence. It's more than a recording of his speech. It's him. The essence, his DNA is recorded there.
So if I be in Ma'amad Har Sinai, if I be in Har Sinai, and I share talk, and I have the camera, you think I can take a picture of all this?
Excellent. You know what this is? Exactly our class today. The Torah, those words in the Torah, are God's idea in one point in God. You ask, what is this? This is the seed of God. God's personality. You know what? God has a personality. He wants to tell you what's his personality. Now he has to think about words. Yeah? So this is the words of what God's personality is like.
Well, you can say Adonai, El Rachum V'Chanun. It's attempt for a personality.
We'll discuss that also, all these words, once we get to that. That's 13, you're right. It is kaiches of God. It's a level of personality. Over here, we're talking something else. We're taking the essence of God, not just the personality of God. God that creates, just like a seed, can create other gods. That can create other gods also. You cannot say other gods, but that's the idea.
Questions.
Yeah.
Can God create a stone so heavy that he cannot move it?
We actually answered this question today. We actually answered this question today. Can somebody give me the answer?
Do whatever he wants, no?
No, we actually discussed his question today. Can God?
כל כך כבדה שהוא לא
And the answer is yes and no at the same time, like we said today. There's a duality within God. He can, there's a level of can, there's a level of not. There's two. Does the shell of the turtle hides the turtle, or that's the turtle? It's the same thing. So the shell, it's true, it hides the turtle, and it is the turtle. Both statements are true. So that was the end of the class. We answered your question.
So can there be a speed faster than light?
And the answer is again, we answered that today also.
Yes, maybe no.
Yes and no, not maybe yes or no. Yes and no. And it's no and yes, one hiding the other. Yes, we answered the question.
My dream is that I can move my body at the speed of my thoughts. So if he's in I say, all right, let's have a cup of coffee. How about in 5 minutes?